This is an international podcast transmission. Is anyone out there? If you're listening, you've reached the No Fixed Agenda podcast. Everyone, welcome back to No Fixed Agenda, presented by Bub's Naturals. I'm your host, Jeff Stoner, joined by Omar Hernandez right next to me.
Yeah, baby, what's going on?
How you feeling, man?
I'm all right.
Yeah?
I'm all right.
Mouth all healed up?
I don't know,
Not
man.
really.
We'll see. We'll find out, dude. You know what? If you open up with my mouth issues, it kind of leaves things up to like interpretation.
It does.
Yeah. First of all, for the audience, he's talking dental work, okay? He's not talking about anything else.
He likes having things shoved into his mouth.
That has been the case all day long, for sure. But today's episode, man, what are we going to be talking about, bro?
So I tell you what, we are middle of the month of May. And as most people know, or maybe you don't know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And so we had been talking about trying to do an episode on mental health.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things we went back and forth. Who is willing to talk about mental health as open as our guests did in this episode? But we also were trying to find somebody who was a mental health, professional. And that was really a tough one as well. So it took us a while to kind of really figure it out, but I think we landed on a really good,
this is a good
guest.
One.
And
I think in our selection process too, we wanted to make sure that whether it was a professional or somebody that was struggling with mental health, that they actually, or has struggled with it in the past, that we wanted to, they were just practicing. They weren't just struggling and going through it still. They were struggling. They struggled with it in the past and have a winning formula that works best for them.
Yes.
And I think, the guest that we have on in Justin True, I think, is exactly that.
Well, you know what it is Justin has always been, and I mentioned this in the episode, Justin has always been open to it.
Right.
He is always somebody who is willing to talk to somebody about his struggles openly. He's here to help. If somebody is having their own issues, he's willing to listen in to what they're going through, to kind of give some examples of what he went through and what he did to get over it. So it was very interesting on that side of things. And I do want to preface to the listener that this episode gets really fucking deep.
It's a lot deeper than normal, and you're not going to hear as much joking and laughing as we have in the past.
Yeah. So go into it with that as you will, whether you want to listen to that or not. I feel that this episode will really help individuals that maybe are having a little bit of struggles in some regard or another. The conversation between you and Justin with both of your past issues with it, it actually kind of, to see the two of you like talking about it back and forth and the love that you shared, after those conversations came out, it was heartwarming, honestly. And both of you guys both kind of shared some tears a little bit on both ends. And it was really special to see. And I honestly think it's not normalized enough as far as these type of conversations. So I feel that us having this conversation in the month of May was very important. And I think people are really going to get something out of it. I really do hope people listen to this as much as it kind of maybe pains people to listen to sometimes. I think it will also help give an understanding to some of the struggles that people go through that you don't really understand. And he had a couple really great examples of this. And I think that was really what brings it home, is you never know what people are struggling with, right? And
you never know, and what they're afraid to share about what their struggles. And so I think Justin opens that up very well, and we did share a very vulnerable moment between the two of us, and that's where it kind of gets deep. But Justin is a soldier in his own right, and he's done some amazing things. And I equated the conversation to, it was so relatable for me, similar to our conversation with Stephen about addiction, and exchanging those stories and normalizing, because that was the whole intent when you and I talked about doing this episode, was like, let's make it normal that it's okay that you have a mental illness or you're struggling with your mental health. And I think that's what our hopes was with this episode. I think we accomplished that because we openly talked about it. We had some tears about it, and then we laughed a little bit afterwards. Yeah. So I think, and we shared love. And I think that's what that whole conversation needs about. Love is primarily an acceptance and understanding when we talk about mental health issues and struggles with mental health. And I think we accomplished that with this episode for sure.
Yeah. And if you don't know who Justin True is, you can definitely take a look at his social feed. I mean, he's probably one of the most genuine individuals you'll find on social media. Yeah. He's definitely the epitome, I think, of a hybrid athlete. I mean, the guy can go off and lift 400 pounds on a deadlift and some Dini stones, but then go run an ultra marathon and swim across the Atlantic, bike across the country. I mean, there's so much, and we didn't even get into any of that because that's a completely different podcast that we wanted to talk to him about. Just knowing who he is and what he has become based on his past is amazing. So I hope you guys really enjoy. Let's just get right into it. Welcome to the No Fixed Agenda, Justin True.
This is No Fixed Agenda, brought to you by Bubs Natural. Their mission statement is simple: live better, live longer. Bubs helps fuel people to reach their maximum human potential through supplements sourced from nature's highest quality ingredients, while giving 10% of all proceeds back to charity. Learn more about their NSF sports certified collagen peptides and electrolyte drink mix at bubsnaturals.com. Out of respect as well, you're a friggin' animal, man.
Just like to have a good time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Running those ultra marathons and picking up heavy fucking stones, that does sound like a good time.
That's pretty much it, man. Just picking up rocks.
Yeah, picking up heavy shit.
I'm pretty much just a big kid, man. Like, we sleep in dirt still, and we pick up rocks and play in the sand, and that's about it.
Hell yeah, that's my kind of party.
If my lady didn't tell me to shower, I probably wouldn't shower or take a bath either. Pretty much I'm a kid. I got to have somebody look after me and tell me what to do. Honestly, there's a couple. After we did the whole beer smash the other night, my shirt was just completely caked. It smelled like I was back in college. Yeah, so I put on another shirt, and I was like, man, why does this smell so bad? I realized I ran the whole cocoa in it. And then it got put in Hector's laundry bag. So I felt like a mixture of my sweat and Hector's musk. And I was like, man,
that's brutal.
You might bottle that up. It might be
not good. I think Jeff knows, man. I'm an open book. Even if it ruffles feathers, I'm here.
That's what I'm with. I'm with that.
Let's just get right into it then.
Yeah.
So
I thought we started already.
Well, we have.
It's been let's just go, bro.
We need to include the part. We need to include the part about the musk. So in case we have any buyers out there.
Yeah. We'll roll right into it. But anyway, the whole entire point is this. Thank you very much for taking the time after the Cocodona 250. Not that you did it at all yourself, but we're there supporting and smashing beer cans and everything else.
All right, cool.
So Justin and I's relationship and how this got started.
Yeah.
Again, through Hector, as he had told you, we did I think Hector introduced this before he did his San Diego 200. I know that he was like, hey, you've got to meet this guy, Justin, that's coming in. And I think he probably referenced me at one point in time too with you. And then we finally got a chance to run together with him. I think, I don't remember
at KP.
At KP. Yeah. It was right down there in Mission Trails. It was about over midway through his run and stuff like that. So we had a chance to chat, and honestly, ever since then, like we just keep in touch, and it's cool. Anytime he's been in town, I've had a chance to hook up with him, whether that's just going out for a run or doing some charity work together and stuff. So we're always trying to prep and do some stuff together if we can. And unfortunately, you don't come to San Diego much anymore.
I don't.
With Hector not really being here full time, there's no real reason for you to come to San Diego.
Right. I'd never been to San Diego in the first place. I hang around with him so much, I got his hat now.
Bro, how are you friends with him and not come to San Diego? Do you like?
It's a great place. I'm surprised I didn't move down there in the first place. It's an incredible place and amazing community. The water, the sun, the hills, it's got everything.
That's everything. Yeah.
And that's a lot coming from somebody who's from the North Bay. I feel the Northern California, Southern California, like we battle and
different vibes for sure.
Yeah.
So I was trying to explain to Omar, he was trying to get your story as far as how you are able to do what you do during regular work weeks, being over in the UK. And then I was trying to explain the work side of things for you because it's a very unique job you've got.
I was like, how is this guy live in UK? I guess you were in Ireland or something. Where did you go pick up the rocks at? And then
in Scotland. So just
Scotland, and then you went to, I don't know, you're over here in Arizona now helping. How do you do all that shit? I can't even get away for 5 days to save
So I'm extremely blessed with my schedule. I work as a contractor full time. And I always try to do little side hustles and do things and build a business on my own. But my main job is working on, it was nuclear plants. And now I've segued to like petrochemicals. So working on oil fields or oil rigs, oil fields.
Well, when did that happen?
Exactly a year ago. I got a false positive on a drug test and I got completely banned from my industry in nuclear.
Oh, shit.
Wow. And that crushed me because I was still in the wake of the triathlon. And I had no job now. Pretty much the job I had built for 7 years was now crushed. And man, it broke me. It was one of the things it was just like being in a challenge where shit hit the fan and I had to think. I think I broke down for a day. I was just distraught. I'm like, I can't go back to the UK. I have to figure out how to make a living now. And I'm in a monstrous amount of debt. And I think I just bitched and moaned for the day and soaked it in, and then the next day hit the ground running and figured out how to fix things. And the last year has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So what do you do for these oil rigs or these oil companies now, even as a contractor?
What would you call it? I guess just a basic like technician, an engineer technician. So that's what I went to school for, was mechanical industrial engineering as well as business. But no, I don't ever use the business side of it. But yeah, just I guess the bottom line is just a technician inspecting things.
And how long, when you go out into these things, how long are you there for that allows you to do all this travel?
The nuclear world was very short contracts. And so I'm glad I got out of that because I would have to we don't have very many nuclear plants in the United States. And so I would have to find 3 in the spring and the fall. There's nothing in the summer and winter. So that's why it'd be really good to summer and winter. I'd knock out these huge challenges, but I'd have to find 3 plants because each one of them only lasts like maybe 14 days. And so that's not enough. And there'd only be maybe 2. So I'd work 28 days in the spring and 28 in the fall. And it'd be rough. And so now with the oil stuff, they're a lot more like plentiful as far as work. My first one I was on for 8 weeks in last fall, and that was super long. That would have been 3 jobs versus now all I have to do is find 1 site, 1 contract, and I'm good. And then in the spring, another one that I just did was like 12 weeks. And they still wanted me to stay out there. And I'm like, listen, it's 12 weeks. It's 7 days a week, 12-hour days, almost 14-hour days. Cause you got basing the travel, getting to and from the site. And 7 days a week, working 14s, let's say, for 12 weeks straight. And it's gnarly, but I don't miss a workout. I don't miss a run. I don't skip any sort of my nutrition. Everything is on point always. And I just figure out if I can do it in the outside life, as far as being free with my schedule, is cake.
Yeah, 12 weeks to just suck it up. You and I both work like fucking 15 hours a day anyway, 7 days a week. Shit, it's Mother's Day. We're over here fucking working.
Yeah, true. See, it's really the same
Thanks,
thing.
Justin. I appreciate the fucking schedule you got.
Yeah, I know. Like we
go off to he's going off to Nicaragua tomorrow.
Oh, suffering. Oh.
Yeah. So I want to get into kind of your backstory, like I said, because anybody who's listening in for the first time, anybody who's listening to my original podcast has listened to us ramble on for a couple hours here and there about your backstory and a lot of the events that you've done, whether they're regular events or just your own shenanigans you put together. I want to get a backstory for any of the new listeners that are just finding out who you are, because honestly, the stories that I know about you and the things that you've done are amazing. And I truly respect the individual you are. As an athlete and as a person. It is some of the coolest stuff that I see you doing on your social media and some of the stuff that you share as well. Like, you are so open when it comes to the mental health side of things and letting people know who you actually are, and always telling people, hey, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And you coming out, a lot of the conversations that we've had on this podcast have all been about service, and your service to go help Hector out this past week is huge too. And the type of person, again, you are. So I'd love to just get like a brief overview of like where you came from and the upbringing you had and everything else.
So it's like your dating bio, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the dating bio.
My dating
bio. Yeah. Like, what would we find on Tinder, bro?
Oh, man.
Like, you're trying to attract our audiences, but not I know you got a girlfriend, so.
They would probably think that it's a catfish because my bio would just be cool as shit. They'd be like,
there you go. So let's give us the coolest shit bio.
Yeah, man. I would say just the basic rundown was I grew up with no one in my corner. And now that's all I want to do is be in other people's corner because I know what it feels like. But my whole life is about my brother. He's 3 years older than me. He was an absolute horrible knucklehead. I think of myself and Hector as professional knuckleheads that do good things. Mm-hmm. He was the worst kind of person. Blew up buildings. I was doing heroin by probably 14. I asked him one time, because I always tell a story of how many times have you overdosed? I just want to get my facts straight. And he's before 18 or after 18. I'm like, that's an answer.
That's an answer.
And so that's just who my brother is. I love him to death. He's the greatest person now. Probably took some ayahuasca and now he's like super peaceful, which kind of pisses me off that he won't fight me now. He's so,
now that I can beat your ass.
He's so namaste with everything. Yeah. But anyways, it was always about him growing up, and my parents' attention was always on him all the time. And my dad beat him, then he beat me. And then when he left, my dad beat me. And so it was like, I was always at the bottom of the pecking order, and life was just rough. My mom moved to Oregon, and it was an extremely violent breakup that I didn't think affected me at the time. But come to find out, it wasn't the divorce that really got me. It was the violence of it. It was the aggressiveness of it. It was the fighting of it. And I just, no matter how bad my dad was, I wanted to stay in California and stay with my friends. I just needed that community, people who I loved. And it just got even worse from there. My dad would, huge manipulator, horrible person. He would kick me out of the house, and he'd want to know that I was sleeping on the street. It was, if he found out I was sleeping at someone's house, I'm 15 at the time. If he found out I was sleeping at a friend's house, this family eventually took me in, he would call the cops and say I ran away. And just horrible manipulator. And I still just kept putting up with it because I wanted to be around my friends. They were everything to me. And then a couple months went by. My mom started seeing this guy. My dad got in touch with him, and they became best friends because he can.
Your mom's dating and your dad. Wow.
And so he became really good friends with them. And now I became like a spy where I could see what he was saying to him and everything and the stories they were sharing with each other. And my mom became really uncomfortable with it. And my mom broke up with him. And my dad was like, see, she's such a bitch. She's such a whore, this and that. And I'm sitting there listening to it. And I'm like, just thinking I can't do anything because I'm a little kid. I'm like 15 years old and I was like 150 pounds. And I just remember one night he ended up talking to this guy and basically convinced him to stab my mom. And so my mom, as if anybody doesn't know and listen to this first time, my mom got stabbed about 7 times, about 3 times in the back, twice in the stomach, I think, and then twice in the neck. And there was by
a guy that your dad hired to do.
Yep. And convinced. Didn't
hire him.
Just convinced him that she was such a horrible person. And it was a cut from her ear all the way down to her jugular. And her jugular is hanging on by like fractions of a millimeter. And if the millimeter gets severed, you're done.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about it. Obviously, some time went by and I went back to school in Oregon after I had left my dad because there was no way.
How old are you when you went back up to Oregon and left your
16.
dad?
16 is when this happened. And I went back up to Oregon because there's no way I could be with my dad anymore. Nobody would let me see him again. I was actually being driven to the trailer that we were living in. And the mom had stopped and knew that she couldn't take me home because I would just try to kill my dad. I knew he was just something inside me knew he was a part of it. And when I went back to Oregon, I remember going to school and people would be like, oh yeah, my sister's boyfriend and their friends were all in the store and they all saw it happen. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. You did nothing.
Wow.
You did nothing. You saw this tiny little woman just get brutally murdered. So you think, and you just stood and watched. I get we all want to protect ourselves and stay safe, but I now base my life off being there for other people and saving them if they're in that situation. No matter if it's seeing a woman being taken advantage of or being out on the trail with Hector, I think he knows if there's a bear in the way, I'm 100% stepping in the way. I'm not letting anybody else around me get hurt because I know what it felt like to just hear that people were watching my mom being taken from me. Yeah. That I lived a fun life. I lived a good life. I'm okay if my day ends tomorrow, if I can help somebody else's last just a bit longer with their family. So yeah, I guess that's just a bit of the trauma.
So
I became really good at blocking it out.
So you're 16 now. Your whole life was in California, Southern California, Northern Cal. And then so you were in Northern Cal and you really wanted to be in Northern Cal, but then you left, you went up to Oregon, you 16 years old. Your mom obviously survived.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when she survived, what was that how traumatic was that for you?
Oh man,
dude, I grew up around trauma myself. So this is where I was like, I really wanted to talk to you for two reasons. One, I can see just by looking at your social media, the type of person you are, that you're not that guy going to just show his abs and you're not trying to sell anything. You're really genuinely telling the fucking story, which is awesome. The other thing that I noticed is that Hector seems like a pretty solid dude. And it's very few and far between where I meet a guy and I fucking fell in love with this dude in one meeting. And then for him to have you in his corner when he's doing one of the hardest fucking things that he's ever done, and you just being there, that was pretty fucking awesome, by the way. I'm going to keep on complimenting you on that because I don't know if I serve people all the time. And that is a huge service. 5 days being out there, just fucking roughing it out. Talk to me a little bit about what that looked like for you at 16 years old, watching your mom fight for her life, and what was that all about?
It's going to take me a minute, man. I used to get really good at the story, not tear up, but I think over the years, I've peeled back the layers and lowered the wall of being this like badass and this tough guy. But basically, when I got back to Oregon, I basically hopped a flight the next day to go see my mom. Somebody's idiot idea to send me to school the day after hearing my mom got stabbed. I went to school and everybody saw my eyes red and they were like, "Oh, hi," and I'm like,
I got something for you on that one, dude. I can totally relate what you're saying, but go ahead, finish your story.
Whose idea was this? My education's more important than my mom? Like,
yeah, not just your mom, your emotional health, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, you need to learn how to,
bro. Like,
yeah. I swear,
if you get fucking deathbed right now and you want to send me to school, you think I'm going to learn anything right now? Fuck that.
Yeah, I swear. If you get a D in culinary, we're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Like I did have culinary that day. That was the one. I had 3 classes. One of them was culinary. And I'm sure that was just the absolute pinnacle of my life was culinary. No, but I flew up to Oregon and I remember my brother picked me up. And at this point, we were still not cool. I'm only 16. Our violent years were probably from when we were 7, where, as I've said before, is he used to lock me in dog kennels. He used to torch me, waterboard me, chase me with chainsaws. He would just put a knife to my back and just hold it there till my mom and dad got back from a date. If I got out of the dog kennel, we had these cement stairs that everybody does in their garage. And I swear I have headbutted those stairs, curb stomped in those stairs or steps more times than I could ever count. I'd go to school with my face just completely busted up more times than I can count. And we hated each other. And it wasn't when we fought, it wasn't of like brotherly love. It was like, who's going to get who today and who's going to kill the other person today. And it was just, that's how it always was. And my brother was up in Oregon and he picked me up from the airport. And that was about the first flight I've ever been on, was San Francisco to Redmond, Oregon. And I remember him picking me up, and like the first time we ever hugged without any like bad intention to like try to tackle the other person was at that moment. He leaned over the center console and we just hugged and it was like, man, I love you. I love you. Cause like we knew at that moment, like we were all we had. And as you could tell from my voice and like tearing up, like it really did mean something to finally hear from my brother that he loved me and I loved him, and that we thought my mom was going to be gone was like, it was real. And we drove right to the hospital. And I remember going up and everybody had already been there. My aunt, my grandma, my mom's new boyfriend. My mom's always got boyfriends, man. It pisses me off. She already got a boyfriend. Like, she's already broke up with this one. She moved on with this one. And
she's a mom first, but she's a woman second, bro. That's all I got to tell you. I got some traumatic stories myself about that, but then go ahead.
Terrible, man. It pisses me off. I'm like, I got such a bad picker. And so I've never liked any of these guys. And obviously, so I got a good judge of character. She doesn't. Yeah. And I remember the doctor came up to me and he's, hey, do you want to go see him? Or do you want to go see her? Sorry, I was thinking about him in the story, but do you want to go see her? Just let you know that she's really weak right now. If you cry, she cries. And if she cries, she dies. And I'm like, I've just literally been bawling for the last 18 hours. And you have to imagine, like, why are you letting me see my mom like this? Probably because you don't think she's going to make it. This would be the last time I'm going to see my mom. And I remember walking in there and she's in that bed wrapped just like the biggest burrito you've ever seen, like 20 blankets trying to keep her warm because she had lost so much blood. She had every tube and machine hooked to her. And I had to just sit there like on her right side and just hold her hand and just be like, and just bite down and not cry. And ever since that moment, for the next 10 or so years, I was a brick. I was a stone. No one, every girlfriend was like, how come you have no emotions? How come you never cry? Like I'd break up with chicks and they'd be like, you just don't look like you care. And I'm like,
you're not emotionally available.
I don't have that anymore.
Yeah. You're not emotionally available. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I have this wall of, I won't cry. That moment broke me. Yeah, I put the biggest steel wall to where crying is weakness, like crying will hurt people. And from that moment on, I had a choice, either be like my brother or pave a new path and try to be the man that this household has never had. Because if my mom does make it out of this, she can't work for a while. My brother actually ended up overdosing the next week. So I'm back in the hospital with him, seeing his eyes roll in the back of his head, puking blood up. It was just, I had to be the man of the house. And so I'd been expelled from school 3 weeks or a week into actually moving to Oregon. I got 4 jobs. I never slept. All I wanted to do was make money. I just wanted to be the supporter of the household. So I got jobs on farms. I got jobs at pizza places. I got jobs anywhere I could, doing security as a kid. Anything I could, I'd buck hay all day, every day, just to try to maybe numb the pain, maybe to make money. And yeah, that's all I did for years. And I didn't ever think about my own mental health. I started hearing voices and I thought I was going insane. And what I come to realize later, after going to the doctors or going to a therapist, was that it was just that I never slept and my brain was thinking about thinking. And yeah, man, you had
no time to reboot, dude. Yeah. And no time to reboot. That's the sleep, man. That's the sleep deprivation. You got to listen to, I think it's Matthew Clear's book. I don't know, Why We Sleep.
Okay.
You got to, that's a good listen. It's a good read because he talks about that and how sleep deprivation, even buds, people that go through buds training or Navy SEAL training, they won't put anybody in through there twice now because of the long-term damage that it happens to those cadets in 5 days of sleep deprivation. If you're not sleeping and you're constantly grinding and you never, like, your sleep is actually like a hit Control Alt Delete and save on your brain. And if you don't sleep, there's where the voices come in. So I'm a recovering meth addict. So that same thing, right? You don't sleep for 7 days, 6 days, 12 days, 14 days. And you're like, all meth addicts, all they do is start hearing shit. Like, oh my God, did you hear that? I'm like, fuck. No. So it's 100% it. Yeah, it's nuts. Why We Sleep. It's a good book for you.
I'll check it out, man.
Yeah. But go ahead.
No, that was it.
So that's pretty powerful, dude. There's a couple things that I was really excited to talk to you about mental health and trauma and all that stuff, because a couple things that you said really resonated with me. My father died of an overdose, right? And he was abusive, but my sisters and my mom, primarily my older sister, protected me and shielded me from that abuse. My sister took the brunt of it. And so I grew up thinking my dad was a superhero, dude. Because I didn't see any of that stuff. And so my dad was a heroin addict. And so some of the things you just said, understanding how your brother loved you and like him ODing and him coping with drugs versus you coping with diving into work and of any work that you possibly can get your hands on is like, to me, he's told me a story that you totally are a badass. You totally compartmentalize. And yes, eventually you do not become emotionally available, right? Your brother on his hand, he's like sitting there going, shit, I'm going to fucking just get high. And I'm not thinking about any of this shit, right? And I'm just going to just dive into my work and I'm not thinking about any of this stuff. And I did the same thing. And ironically, I got a very similar story. When they told me my dad died, it was like on a Sunday. It was like 4 days or 5 days before my 12th birthday, and my dad had committed to picking me up, and then my mom got the call that he had died, and I was so looking forward to seeing my dad for my birthday. And all I remember my mom crying when she got the call, and when she got the call, it was like I knew deep down in my core that he was dead. I don't know how to explain it. It just I just knew. And it was like sitting there going, I hear her screaming at the top of her lungs. And this is late 80s, bro. You hear the phone ring and you're like, whatever. Your kid fucking running outside playing with rocks and shit. And you just hear your mom screaming and you're like, I immediately stop in my tracks and I walked into the back door. My mom walks out to the back door and she's crying profusely. And I looked at her in her eyes and I said, he's dead, isn't he? And she's just like, how the fuck did you know?
Yeah.
And then they sent me to school on Monday. And so
that's so fucked up.
It gets better, dude. And so I go to fucking school on Monday, bro. And this is way back when your mama jokes, your daddy jokes that were like very fucking popular, dude. And this one fucking kid, dude, told me a fucking daddy joke and I beat the living shit out of him, dude. Like wholeheartedly beat the shit out of him. People were pulling me off of him. They're like, what the fuck? Why are you so mad? Dude, later on that week, I threw a fucking chair at a teacher, bro. I was so angry. I was so fucking angry. Like, red flag. Like, fucking don't send me to fucking school, dude.
That's part of the story that I haven't.
Yeah, dude. So when you were saying that thing, I can totally fucking relate with where you were at that 16-year-old kid, and you're fighting for it. And one of my closest brothers, he's actually my cousin, but we grew up together. So we've always been brother. We shared the same bed. We freaking all the things. And so he has a similar story to you. His dad disowned him, though. And then his stepdad, which is actually my godfather, used to beat the living shit out of him. And this is before anybody knew anybody with ADHD. And my brother was very ADHD. And so his stepdad thought by beating the shit out of him with fucking sticks and sicking a dog on him and doing all the things, like all the abusive shit, he's going to fucking cure him. It made him worse. And my brother was in and out of prisons. He eventually got shot and killed in my age, he was in his 40s, but that was the life he grew up in. He never faced his demons. He never dealt with anybody. He never took the steps to do the hard lifting of going to talk to a therapist and working through all of those things of the abuse and the way his biological father disowned him. And I did the same thing, right? I did what your brother did. I first did what you did, which was dive into work, prove to the world that I'm fucking gonna break the cycle because I'm gonna make all this money in the world and I'm gonna go have kids at 16 years old, buy a house before I'm 20. And I did all that shit. And I'm like, I'm gonna show the fucking world and my family that you don't have to be fucked up. And all I was doing was diving into a form of addiction and masking and compartmentalizing and not dealing with the fucking heavy lifting that I needed to do. And so I'm telling you the story because I want to get that backstory from you and understanding that when traumatic shit like this happens to us as humans beings, we don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to deal with it when nobody ever wants to see their mom getting fucking stabbed to death. Nobody wants to hear that their superhero died. Nobody wants to see my mom got into drugs too. So nobody wanted to see people dragging them dead out of the fucking basement. Yeah. And you were coming home high at 12 and your mom's like, what are you high? I'm like, yeah, well, fucking roll a joint. Let's go. And my own mom, I'm getting high with my own mom at 12, bro. Like nobody, kid, what's wrong, bro? Yeah. But you knew it was wrong to get put in a kennel, waterboarded, beat up, want to kill your brother and your mom getting stabbed. And yet, how do you deal with that? Yeah. So I wanted to get your story on how you went about. What was the first sign that you really needed to get some help and do some of that lifting?
Oh, the first time I tried taking my own life. My mom obviously had a bunch of drugs from her accident, and she was the savage she is. She didn't take any of them. She just dealt with the pain every day and didn't take any of the codeine or whatever else she had.
Was there a thought behind that? Did she tell you why she didn't want to take any of that shit?
Not at all. Not at all.
Really?
She's just a savage. She's just tough. I never heard why. I don't know why. She's never been addicted to anything ever. I have no idea why. I never asked her really. I don't know. I just don't think she cares.
Do you think it had to do with anything with your brother's addiction?
It could have, but I don't know. She just seems like a tough person that it's out of sight, out of mind. I'm just going to move on. She's very good at just compartmentalizing and putting things in the back of her head of like, all right, that's done. I don't care. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. When people get attacked in any sort of manner, they usually move towns. If someone gets attacked or raped, like they move. They can't be in that same neighborhood anymore. They can't be in that same shopping mall or anything. They got to move.
Yeah.
My mom.
Everything's a reminder and a trigger.
Yeah. My mom went right back to the exact same place that she stood when it happened. And she's worked there ever since. The second she could get back to work, She still stands in that spot. It's Sunday. No, she doesn't work on Sunday anymore. But every day of the week, or 5 days a week now, 6 days a week sometimes, she's in that same exact spot. And it's, who does that? Like, you didn't switch stores. You didn't move towns. You went to the exact same spot. And maybe it's just the sake of nothing's ever going to beat you down. And she doesn't actually ever think of it. It's just subconsciously, like, nothing's ever going to win. There's another point where actually a really good friend of mine, he was a kid I used to train in MMA. He actually ended up shooting up the store. He used to work with my mom. And he wrote a whole manifesto about he was going to go shoot up the school. He graduated, but he was going to go shoot up the high school. And you could just tell he was a kid who got bullied. He got picked on all the time, and he was going to go back to the place where it always happened. And I think he just couldn't deal with it anymore. And he lived right behind the store. And so he walked into the store and ended up shooting up the store while my mom was there. And I could have been angry, just like my brother, right? I could have been angry at my brother for what he did, not being there for my mom or the family anymore. But we all have our own ways of healing. Yep. That was his. Yep. Is it mine? No. Was it right? Probably not. But that's his own journey.
What you just said is very fucking powerful, bro. I'm going to tell you that right now. Most family members this is why Al-Anon exists. What you just said right now. This is why Al-Anon exists. It's because, most people are family members that go through what you did. They have a fucking hard time not taking responsibility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you are looking at your brother, and this is what I'm saying is very fucking powerful, because if you're looking at your brother, like, hey, this is the way he had to deal with it. And that's all Al-Anon teaches you. Yeah. It's like you're sitting there going, he had to fucking deal with this. Right? I'm crying because I had to come to terms with that with my mom and going, wow, mom, how do you not care about your 8 kids, 10 kids, right? How do you want to fucking chase the sack over buying us a quart of milk? You want to buy a 12-pack and a fucking pint of milk, and there's 8 of us. Like, what the fuck? And I later learned that it was my mom's journey, that it was her way of coping with her traumas and her cycle. And you just literally just said that like that. And I don't want to overlook it. I don't want to bypass it, dude. It's like you empowered your brother to deal with his own shit and didn't judge him for it.
Yeah. So it took a while. I've always loved him, even through all the hard times, but it took a while to understand that that's just who he was. And that's how he dealt with things. That's all he knew. Yeah. We can't blame somebody for not being exactly like how we are. And so he's his own beautiful person who has ways of doing stuff. We all are. So yeah, it's this kid who went up and shot up the store. It was like, everybody else is so mad. And I remember he was on my Instagram. He actually ran when I was pulling the truck for a marathon. He was actually beside me the whole entire way. His name was Ethan, and he was such a sweet kid. He did a horrible thing, but he was such a sweet kid that was just tormented. And to think about the pain that he went through in his head, to think this is a right decision to take others' lives and take my own life, is so incredibly painful to think of that he was going through that. And I remember having so many conversations with him about being suicidal, because he came in and I was like, hey, man. And we all know, like, adults always go, yeah, no, I know what you're feeling, or, oh, get over it. That's what I got told all the time. Suck it up. And even my favorite adults in the world told me that. And I still love them to death, but they just don't understand it. So Ethan was pretty young at the time. He's about 13. And I was like, hey, man, let me tell you what you're thinking. It's a very weird strategy. And I was like, let me tell you what you're thinking. Wow. And he was like, because at this point, he just sees me as I'm going to Iceland. I'm doing all these cool trips. Yeah. I'm winning MMA championships. I'm like a hero to him. I'm like, he doesn't think there's anything going on in my head. And I'm like, let me just tell you what you're thinking, man. Tell me if I'm wrong. And so I tell him, and he's like, holy shit, dude. Yeah. Like, how'd you know? I was like, because, man, that's me. I think all this shit every single day. Yeah. I wake up and I fucking hate my life. I wake up some days where I just want it to be all over. I wish there was a stop button. I wish that, but I'm just going to keep fighting for one more day, this and that. And he's just like, this is exactly how I feel. And we bonded over that. And he went and saw therapy after that. And he went so far, and he was such a good kid. And it just sucks that once he got out of high school and kind of went out into the real world, where now he's alone, he doesn't really have his parents, that home life wasn't great for him. And that was the route he went. But I remember he was on my Instagram as far as pulling the car, and people find his Instagram, they find how he's connected to me, and they go, you're friends with a murderer, this and that. And I'm like, listen, man. And it was so fun because people came at me hard, like telling me to kill myself because I'm friends with a murderer. And I'm like, hey, man, look at this. I got in this whole conversation with so many people. By the time I got on the phone with this one dude from like Illinois, and I was like, listen, man, no mom ever wants that. She never wanted that. Your mom doesn't want that for you. Like, she is in her house just in pieces right now. We all are. Like, my mom was in the store Ethan knew my mom. He knew me. He knew my mom was working there. Like, he loved my mom, and he still went in there. You have to think about all this stuff. And finally, this guy actually he's shit, dude. I never really thought about it all like that. And eventually we became friends afterwards. He's shit, man. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to come at you so hard. Like, I should have learned the full story. And just seeing a psychopath walks into the store and shoots it up, I'm like, nobody wants this, dude.
And that's the problem with today's society and social media is everybody hides behind a keyboard when they want to complain about something or doesn't feel like it's the right thing for them. And all of a sudden it becomes this perpetual bullying aspect of it. Like, they don't know jack shit about what's actually going on, which really sucks.
Well, I think that's 100%. What do they call them? Behind the keyboard bullies and shit. Yeah. But I think what you're pointing out is that you are actually very empathetic into understanding what the hell he's went through, because you went through it yourself. You just didn't go fucking shoot up a retail store, right? Yeah. Yeah. You decided to try to take your own life, right? And so that was me. And even people, again, normalizing. The whole reason why I wanted to have this conversation was because I wanted to normalize the conversation of mental illness. Like, mental illness is not a fucking bad word. The fact that you said you took your life is not. It's bad that you tried to do that, obviously, but if we bring it out, I have this theory. The more light you put on the situation, the more we understand it. And so, like, people go through their entire lives trying to avoid some fucking dysfunction that they have because they don't want to look at it, because they're afraid, or because they don't think they can deal with it, or because maybe they're not strong enough. Maybe they're thinking about taking in their own lives. And the reality is, the more light you shed on it, the easier it is to deal with little by little. And so,
I just think what you said is like, we need to talk about it.
Yes.
I started going into NAMI, which is National Alliance Against Mental Illness. And I started going into a bunch of talks with schools, and the board members sat down with me to just talk with me. And a couple of them were moms who used to go to that same Safeway that my mom worked at. They got shot up. And I told her, like, hey, I know Ethan, or I knew him, and he was this and this kid. And she was like, she was terrified. She was like petrified to go back to that Safeway. And I was like, listen, like, my mom was in that store. She was gutted that it was Ethan. She called me while she was hiding. And is this Ethan? Is this Ethan? And we had found out it was Ethan as he was going in. And so as the police were going in and they're figuring out who it is, we knew it was Ethan. And my mom was in the store calling me and freaking out and like, how could he do this? How could he do this? And I'm like, Mom, you need to take a stand. You need to show people that, like, this isn't a bad kid. This is mental illness. This isn't somebody who wants to kill people and terrorize people. This is somebody who just is mentally ill and hurting. And she immediately went back to work the next 3 days after she went through the whole process, went right back into that store. Not only had she been stabbed 7 times in that store, but she was in a shooting with somebody who she loved. She loved him. And she went back again and stood there again, and showing how powerful that is, and not hating him for what he did, knowing that he was hurting inside. This wasn't him. This wasn't meant to happen. And all the moms I told the story to, and if I were to just not talk about this, people would be scared still. And she went back to that store that evening. She hadn't been back to that store in about a month. She's, I can't do it. I'm terrified. I go to a different store now. And I'm like, listen, my mom's in there. She's not going to let something just hold her down and keep her away from living life. And she ended up going to that store, like talking to my mom. Now she's able to live life again. She's able to take her kids to school, knowing that this isn't somebody who just wants to cause harm on somebody. It was somebody who was mentally ill, and that we need to approach this better and shed light on this issue. And it was just really cool hearing that, like, people found power in that, and knowing that there's not evil in the world. It's a disease. And people were able to go back to live their own life after.
I have to think about it this way. I used to be angry. I was told you angry the whole time. And I stopped being angry because I dove myself into creating a family and work and all that stuff. And I just literally took chasing a career as my addiction. I didn't know I was an addict back in the day, even though I was a product of addiction. My dad, heroin overdose. My mom's a crackhead with fucking alcoholism and all that shit. But I didn't know. I knew I came from there. I didn't want to be like that. So I just masked the hell out of it by chasing. All that to say is, I wish somebody there was more conversations like this available to us to go, oh shit, I have those thoughts too.
Yeah.
Let's deal with this. Let's face it. How do I start facing it? So for the audience, I want not just to get the gory stories of like how you ended up and all that stuff. And all that stuff is very powerful from an understanding perspective. But I genuinely feel people don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, you know what? I want to fucking kill 10 people in the fucking... People don't wake up going... And I say the same thing about obesity, addiction, suicide, even murderers, right? Something happened to them that made them that way, and they just never dealt with it. And so I have to think about it that way, and it helps me be empathetic to go, well, that person, Ethan, didn't wake up going, you know what? I'm gonna walk into a Safeway and fucking take 20 people with me. I don't even think that of the people that are like shooting up these schools. Yes, it's a bad thing that they're shooting up schools, but I guarantee you that kid didn't fucking wake up, or that person didn't wake up going, you know what, I want to kill kids.
Yeah.
Something fucking clicked in them. And that's the conversation that I would like to get into with you. And like you said, you started talking about like the first time you wanted to take your life. And so how many times have you tried doing that? Because for me, I tried twice, almost succeeded once, OD'd once as a kid. I want to hear your story on how you went about getting the help after you, first of all, how many times you tried, and then what was that progression to get into the help?
Yeah, because I definitely segued off of that.
I think that's honest to God, that's the meat and potatoes of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And people are out there listening to this episode, right? Because I'm going to pump the hell out of this because we need to normalize the conversation. Yeah. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Justin, you're a badass. We just said you're an amazing human being, but yet you had this traumatic experience. It does not define who you are. You try to take your life. It doesn't define who you are. How we respond to those things is what defines us. Right.
Yeah. And like what you said about the whole evilness, like he didn't wake up thinking that. Right. I know if I was there at his front door as he's walking out and just gave him a hug and be like, I love you, dude.
Yeah.
He would have went back inside. Yeah. That's not an evil person. That's just somebody who doesn't have anybody in their corner. And it was the same way with me taking my own life. To circle back to it is, I just finally woke up after this whole blur of however many years of just putting everything else in front of me and masking all my own pain and not sleeping and realizing that I've just lost how many years of my life. Childhood, my high school years that are supposed to be all this fun. I was angry. I didn't throw a chair. I kicked a hole in my teacher's door. So we're pretty.
I wanted to kill my teacher, dude.
Yeah.
And she didn't do shit to me, dude.
Not at all. I was just angry and I hated life. And it finally all just clicked one day that like, I didn't ask to be here. I didn't ask for all this shit to happen to me. It's not fair. Everybody else I see at school is happy with good lives. As far as I see on the facade of it is like, why the fuck did this happen to me? And so
how old were you first to try to take your life?
I believe I was 18 and it was back-to-back nights. It was 2 nights. Wow. So that was about 2 or 3 years, about a good part of 3 years of just blacking out, working and not sleeping and just, it was awful. Back-to-back nights was basically it. Took a bunch of pills and took a bunch of medicine that my mom had. And we were never a family with guns. I don't know if I could have done it. Maybe I didn't want to do it. I just wanted somebody to care. Maybe I wanted to not take enough to kill myself. Maybe I just wanted to get sick to where somebody cared. And then the next night, it didn't work. I just took more. The next night, I took other things the next night. And again, maybe I just edged on it because I was sick. I didn't get my stomach pumped. I was sick. I threw up. I felt high some nights, and obviously codeine's going to get you high. But that's all it was, is maybe I just needed somebody to tell me they fucking love me because it wasn't happening. My family was very numb to all that. Obviously, my mom is probably traumatized and doesn't really say it too much. My brother as well. Yeah, I remember sending the message to this family that took me in high school. And again, it just wanting attention. It's just nobody puts out a PSA that they're going to kill themselves. They're just going to do it. But I texted all my friends. I was in California. I said, hey, I'm going to come by. I'd love to come by and say bye to you guys. I'm going to kill myself. Like, who does that? That's just somebody asking for attention. Right. And it's just tell me you fucking love me. And so I remember the first house I stopped at was this family that took me in Petaluma, and she sat me on the couch, and the dad I respect, he's basically my dad. Is what I just call him now. And she knows I was terrified of him. I respected him so much. I'd be terrified to upset him. So I just respect the hell out of him. And I remember
I love that, by the way.
I sat on the couch, man. I sat on the couch, and because first day of school, like I said, I'm a protector, man. People picking on other people. Somebody kept calling my new sister a whore. And she told me, and right after school ended, that bell rang, got suspended immediately. And he made me write 1,000 words. I will not disrespect this house or this family or this house 1,000 times. And I was like, all right, game on. I didn't like him. I came from a house of battling alpha males. Now I'm in this. I'm like, all right, man, bet. Like, we'll see. I knocked it out quick, like 3 hours, 1,000 lines. And I turned it up. I gave it to him. He sees it. He goes, all right, cool. Tears it, throws it away. Doesn't even count. I'm like,
You mother.
I could have cheated, but it was the fact that he respected me enough to know that I'm not going to disrespect him. He gave me respect and knows, hey man, I know you ain't fucking stupid. You ain't going to lie to me.
Yeah.
I'm the top dog here. I know you're not going to lie to me. I don't have to second guess this. I know it.
Well,
and
just his response to it, like you're writing 1,000 words. Your bio dad would have fucking put a knife to your back, bro.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, man.
Think about that.
It was the fact that you could teach me respect without hitting me. Dude. And it was the fact that you can teach with just less, like that kind of stuff, and the moral of the story. And so I at that point, I was like, all right, man, like it clicked in my head. And I remember I sat down on that couch and I was like, hey, Lucy, I'm going to kill myself. And she was just like the longest out of all the time that I've been in their house, growing up from 4th grade onwards to senior year and such. She's like, you've never told us you loved us. You lived with us. You've never said it back. We've said it to you every night when you lived here. You never said it back. And I'm like, I just didn't know how to say it. And I'm sitting there on our couch, bawling my eyes out now. Everything's coming out. And she's just, JT, we love you. And those are the exact words, was JT, we love you. And it broke me. And she also said that she won't let me leave the house. And if I do, she'll call Mike. So I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm not leaving.
He's going to make me write another 1,000 words.
Yeah. And I'm like, listen, guys, I got a D-Day to end my life.
Yeah.
Okay, now. And it was just that moment of just somebody just grabbing me, not physically anymore, and just being like, we fucking love you, dude. We love you. Stop. And it was that really shook it into me. That really made me stop trying to take my life at that point. And knowing that she wasn't going to let me leave the house, that she cared about me, that somebody else cared about me. And it was just abnormal. I just needed somebody in my corner. Ethan needed people in his corner more often than not. And I think that's the big thing is we need people there. We need to check on people. If I didn't go and talk about this and let people know, like Jeff said at the start, man, I'm very vocal. If you need somebody, you don't even know me, talk to me. Yeah. I'll be your best fucking friend.
I just want to love you. Like you want to talk about why. So I made this post today about Mother's Day and like a mother's love. And for me, in my inner circle, right? Jeff's now being introduced to my inner circle because I spent a lot of time with him, right?
You're a lucky man. You're lucky man.
Yeah. Lucky him and not so lucky because I eat some pretty nasty shit.
I love you, man.
But to get back on it, I always tell people it's all love. You got to love first. Yeah. Dude, coming from somebody that used to hate people, I was that dude that would pull you over and fucking want to beat you with the tie dryer.
Anybody could get
anybody and everything. You looked at me, what the fuck you looking at, bro? Let's go. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was that angry dude. And so I have a hard time being angry with people. Mm-hmm. Right? And hating people. I have to love them first. And they're like, they could literally accuse you of the worst thing in the world, right? Or say they want to shoot you on social media, you're a murderer, all these other things, and I'm gonna love you no matter what. And you're like, how can you do that? Because the alternative is that I'm gonna hate, and God knows I already know what that feels like to do it. And so it's so fucking easy to hate.
Yep.
It is so easy to hate. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you that even your dad, your biological dad, has his own story of why he is the way he is. And so doesn't make it right, doesn't excuse it. It just is, right? And so you loving first and saying, I will be your best friend, even though I don't know you, is pretty powerful.
Yeah. I live it every single day, man. We're at this race.
Yeah,
I'm everybody's friend, man.
I know, dude. I got that, dude.
Anybody and everybody. Yeah. I live in England now, where like they're very friendly people, but they're not very outgoing people. And I will talk you to death if I know that you don't feel like outgoing or you're shy.
Yeah. Trust me. Good luck. I'm coming for you. That was the one thing I saw your post, by the way, when you were talking about you were wrapping up the Cocodona with and you were talking about just that. And it's like meeting all these amazing people and people that I do remember from the last time and Hector PRing and all this other stuff, bro. I was like, this guy's the fucking real one, dude. Like he's talking from the heart right now, bro. This is pretty fucking cool, dude. I love that shit. So you got in, you tried twice, you got help. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about what was your first experience with like therapy and how did that come about?
It was pretty nerve wracking. So I don't get along with men. That was the deal. Is like really men I don't like. Obviously with my brother and my dad. Yeah. I just don't. And it was women. I just gravitate towards women. Like, I love women to death. Moms are like the absolute heroes of this world.
Yep.
And, so I had to have a therapist that was a woman. So I think that's really critical, is find out, if anybody's listening, find out who you feel comfortable with. It's okay to say that you don't feel comfortable talking to another man, because I didn't want to open myself up and be like, oh, I'm this like weak little person now. Like, I'm crying in front of a man and now he feels like he's the alpha, find if that's okay. Go talk to a woman and start building that up to where now I can talk to you guys, two men. And there's no worry in my mind that you guys are going to think lesser of me, because I learned at a beginner stage that like this beautiful lady is not going to like, and I don't mean like attractive, but like just inside and out, is that she's such an amazing person that she's not going to judge me, and neither will anybody else. So you do have to pick and choose who you talk to. It's a normal thing. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to a woman, talk to a man. Like, figure out who you feel comfortable with, and like right there, it will just flow. And I was very hesitant of it. What are you going to do? Set me down on a chair? Like, where do we start? It was so crazy having some of the conversations. And I remember sitting there where I would say something, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, son of a bitch, you got me. I really remember sitting there, and she would ask me a question. And I'd be like, and how does that make you feel? I'm like, oh, God. Like, come on. And then I'd answer the question. And I'd be like, fuck.
She got me to talk about my feelings. What the fuck?
Yeah, you Mr. Miyagi the shit out of me. And
me.
Yeah, it's just being accepting of it and not thinking that it's something weak to do. It's, I think, gave me the superpowers that I have today to go do what I do and to stand up for what I stand up for. Baby. Because like you said, being angry, it's, man, that's just, I don't see the point in it anymore, man. I got nothing to hide. There's no need. You can say whatever you want to me and it will not piss me off. Like, I've been through the worst, man. I've been through the grinder. People have said horrible things about me and I just don't care anymore. It'd be easier to say, hey, man, I love you too. I think when you've been through a lot, it's easier for you to move forward and be like, man, life is pretty blessed. Like, I've seen where I've came from. I will never regret where I came from. I never wish that I had another life growing up or a better life growing up, because I've been able to use this as a platform to stand on to help other people. And maybe somebody else wouldn't have been as strong. And that's not trying to be egotistical or egocentric that, oh, I made it through and nobody else could have, but you never know. And I'm just very proud of where I came from, where I fought through to get to where I am today. And that if I'm able to help anybody's life for the better, just one person, and it's all a numbers game, man. So if I talk to 1 million people, one of them is going to work, but I got to talk to 1 million first.
I call that planting seeds, baby.
Yeah.
You're planting seeds, bro.
So I'm curious, how do you carry some of that stuff that you learned right through the therapy and through life experience? How do you carry that into some of the stuff that you do now? And either you and I have had a conversation really quick, or I see something that you post online that you've had a shit day, right? Like maybe when you're going through the Deanie Stone stuff and you fucking down in the dumps, like how have you carried some of that, what you've learned, into what you're doing now? And how's that transition into some of the athletic aspect of it?
I guess we didn't ever go over any tools, right? Every therapist is going to handle stuff different. Yeah. I don't think we went over any tools of the trade to be like, hey, I don't know, write something down or journal or this or that. Like, we didn't go around that. And maybe that's because she knew that's not what I would heal with. We're not all going to heal the same way. So she wouldn't just be like, hey, here's a tool belt with a hammer, nails, screws, giving it to somebody that maybe Omar knows what to do with it, but I give it to you, Jeff, and you're like,
I don't know what a fucking tool is.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's always going to be different. And so I think for me, I think she just knew that wasn't my style. And it was more so just being able to get out, to just verbally vomit all the stuff that I went through and kind of piece it all together and understand why it went on, understand why my brother had to do that stuff in order to heal, understand my mom's past of like why she couldn't like love on us as much as we should have been, like understanding that stuff. And that kind of made stuff click, is that when I go through these things physically, these challenges, to me now, I just look up to those people as much as I wish my mom would. I could look at my mom and be like, hey, like, you weren't there for us. You really fucked us in life. Like, you weren't there for us. Like, you should have gave us a better life. I could blame her. Yeah. Or I could see how strong of a person she was. And that's someone who I aspire to be like. So I think I didn't get that tool belt of journaling, of this or of that. I got in the sense of find somebody who you can look up to and admire and aspire to be. And that is my mom. I always want to make her proud through all these challenges. I always do them for charity of some sorts, but at the end of the day, it's to make my mom, to make that other family proud that what you guys didn't go, what wasn't for nothing. Right. You helped raise somebody who's really cool, that is able to go out and help other people and repay the favor. And so I just want to make them proud that they did right, because it breaks my heart when I hear my mom say that she didn't do a good job. Like hearing those words from her mom just breaks my heart, because I know she tried the most. And so I think through therapy, it's helped me understand that and not blame them for that, and to love them through all of their mistakes I think they made. So I think that's the peace of mind and clarity has opened up my willpower, my mental fortitude to have an empty tank to where I can fill it up now every day, instead of being cluttered with all this anger and bullshit. Yeah. It's empty. My heart is ready to be filled with stuff. And when I do these challenges, I do them with nothing but a full heart.
You sound like very well put together, and yeah, I'm a toolbox kind of guy, right? I am the opposite of that, right? And I'll give you an idea. At 9 years old, dude, I asked my mom not for a car, not for a bike, not for any toy. I wanted a fucking toolbox, dude, at 9. All right. So I'm a toolbox kind of guy. So I love two things that you said. One is that we all heal differently. Mm-hmm. Right. And a good therapist, too, will meet you where you're at and talk to you in a way that you will heal best, and be patient for that. And so when you say those things, talk to us a little bit about that transition, right? You took your life, you went to go to this therapist. Are you still working with a therapist? Do you feel the need to do that? How long did you work with a therapist before you said, okay, I'm good? And I know for me and my therapist journey is on and off. And when I feel like I need somebody to check me or just to make sure I'm not crazy, I have friends that I talk to on the day. Dude, am I fucking high right now? Dude, am I fucking up, dude? Yeah. You and I have had conversations just in relationships with people in my gym, right? Hey, dude, am I off by saying this or thinking this? Like I have those kind of people around me.
I think before Justin answers, I don't think this is a thing that I know. Like, when you were going through your shit, did you end up going to the therapist? And what was that scenario?
Dude, I was 5150, bro. I was like, dude,
I know, because I know you went to rehab. I get that. No, but did you end up doing the therapy thing?
Oh yeah, dude. So when I tried taking my life, a neighbor saw me in my car the first time. I take it back. The first time I was looking for attention, absolutely looking for attention. And so I had taken a bunch of pills, drank like 2 bottles of freaking tequila, and I was like ready to go. And I just laid down, and I think I had called somebody to say bye. And again, there's that cry for attention, right? And so they took me in, and I did a 72-hour hold, and then they pumped my stomach, did a 72-hour hold, and then they put me in a mental institution. So in the hospital, my family, I have an uncle that's like my dad. And so he came in, and he would be like, I tried my best to love you and to show you this is not who you are. You understand we love you. And he's the one who gave me the most love growing up when my mom wasn't available emotionally. Mm-hmm. Right. And my sister did too, my older sister, and my siblings really didn't understand. That's the first time. And then after that, I would do stupid shit, dude. Nobody knew. And I don't think I've ever said this publicly. This is the first. I used to do stupid shit, like go sit on the edge of a bridge. I once drove up to the top of the Coronado Bridge, and it's 2 a.m. and I stopped, and I literally sat on the edge of the bridge. Just fucking sat there, dude. Like my fucking feet are dangling over the edge of the bridge, dude. I'm like, damn, if I just slide over, I'm fucking, I'm done. And something pulled me back. And so I was dealing with all those demons. And it was right around the time I was going through my divorce and when I got into my addiction. If I sat back and I looked at my whole life, I was sitting there going, man, I was suffering so fucking bad from childhood that I literally jumped into this relationship with this girl that I met in junior high, started having sex with her, had a kid, got her pregnant at 15. And immediately my life was like, oh, now my life has fucking value because I have a kid that's coming to me. And I literally have my daughter's name tattooed on the back. And I still tell her this to this day. Valena is like the one person that saved my life, because I probably would have tried earlier. If I didn't get my girlfriend pregnant, I probably would have tried earlier, but I immediately saw her being born. It was like life altering. When she came out, my daughter came out with her eyes wide open, and it almost looked like she was looking dead in my fucking soul, dude. Yeah. I swear to you, till this day. And I'm like, I can never, I will never fuck up again. And that wasn't true. But, and so I literally got her pregnant again and got married and bought the house and do all these things to mask. And I didn't know this at the time, but I was a dick because I was using work, family, my kids as a coping mechanism to avoid dealing with all of my past traumas. Yeah. So the first time I did it was me and my ex-wife were having problems and we were getting ready to go through a separation. And I was like, fuck this. The one thing that gave me value was my family. And now it's going to be gone. So fuck it. I'll just be gone too. Mm-hmm. That was my thought. Right. And then fast forward, that marriage obviously did not work. Right. Because we're fucking kids having kids and I didn't know who the fuck I was and any of that shit. And I got into addiction, or I started drinking and partying a lot after I separated and got a divorce. And I remember trying one more time. And this time, nobody knew. I'd acquired fucking 3 cars. I think I had 3 cars, and I left 2 of them to my ex-wife. We had a house, and I literally left. I got like all the booze that we had. And again, the pills and the booze, dude. Mm-hmm. And I literally sat in front of my ex-wife's house, our old house, and I fucking took all this shit and I just laid back and waited, man. Just fucking waited. And then the paramedics were called, and I didn't know this. No, I wasn't trying to look for attention. That time I really wanted to fucking go, dude. And they took me in again, pumped my stomach, put me in another 72-hour hold. And it was at that point that not even my uncle came by. My mom was sober at that time. She had gotten clean, and she's, you know what? You got to face your demons, dude. You got to fucking deal with this shit. This is why I used. And it was at that moment that I started getting a better understanding of my mom's own addiction. And I started healing from that, understanding why she used and why she, quote unquote, made the decision she did raising us. And that's why I could really resonate with what you said about your brother and understand that he had to go through his own healing process, because that's exactly what I experienced with my mom. I had realized that she had to go through her own healing process. And so she helped me understand that. And by then, I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in any of that stuff, dude. No, there was no God. There's no way that there's a God exists if I'm fucking going through this shit, dude. There's no fucking way. Yeah. Like, if God exists, he's an evil son of a bitch. This is what I thought. Now, I don't think that today, but this is what I thought then, right? Mm-hmm. So going in through rehab or going in through the 72-hour hold, there was a whole process of going to group therapy, going to see a therapist, getting on psych meds, right? I was on Zoloft and Trazodone because I wouldn't sleep. Even after I stopped using meth, I wouldn't sleep for days, man. I would just want to work and work and work and work. And I was like, Jesus. So they put me on Zoloft and Trazodone. And that's what kind of balanced me out a little bit. I was on Zoloft and Trazodone for, 2-3 years. And then I started gaining a lot of weight. A lot. Like food was my coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. And so through that whole transition of therapy and rehab and all this other stuff, food, and I got really big in rehab, man. They really let you, they understand the power of replacement, man. So, you don't want to get high here, eat whatever you want.
Here's 2 cheesecakes.
And I fucking kitchen's open. They fucking literally had baskets of snacks 24/7. You woke up in the middle of the night and fucking grabbed the fucking bag of Cheez-Its and 2 bags of cheese. You would eat whatever the fuck you want, dude. I got really fat, really big. And forward, I was divorced and I lost my job, pretty much lost everything. I was living on my sister's. And then I found fitness. I was like, dude, even as a fat boy, I can work out. And dude, I loved hiking. I did all this shit. And then I found fitness as an addiction. And that was, but it took me 2-3 years of working with a therapist to answer that question, and 2-3 years of being on medication on and off. And so I would say 2 to 5 years on and off. I really didn't like what Zoloft did to me. It did mellow me out. It would level me out. It wasn't racing thoughts all the time. Mm-hmm. But I never had a thought of suicide again, right? And I had other traumatic things happening, right? And so there was one more traumatic thing in my life, even in my 30s, that happened. And I won't say what it is, but it was probably one of the fucking hardest things I've ever fucking dealt with in my entire life. And that's saying a lot considering my dad died, my mom was addict, and I'm fucking like all this shit. And it has to do with my kid, right? And so as a dad, I'm a protector, bro. I'm just like you, bro. Like literally, I was that guy. If there was a guy that literally tried to molest my sister, and I'm 14 years old, bro, I beat the shit out of this dude. And I made my sister watch, bro. I was like, who is it? Him? And she's like, yeah. And I literally walked to him and I just put him out, stomped on him, dude. It took 3 dudes to pull me off him. I'm 14, bro. And so I was that guy like you, protecting, to give shit about me. Go ahead, fucking take me. Yeah. And so when the thing happened with my kid, man, I was just like, fuck. It broke me, dude. But I had enough things in my toolbox. Again, I healed with toolboxes. I had enough things in my toolbox to go, oh, I know when I need to step down. And I know what I needed to remove. And I know what I needed to focus in on. And by then I was already in logistics, dude. I was like making good money. I was overseeing multiple facilities. I was the boss, right? Yeah. And so I went to my boss and I was like, hey, dude, I can't do this right now. And I told him, I confided in him in what happened generally. And he goes, I said, I just needed some time off. So I took 3 months off. Again, knew enough in my toolbox to go, I'm not in the right place mentally to deal with anything. It wasn't suicidal. I did go back on Zoloft, all right, just to deal with it a little bit and like slow things down. And I took 3 months off, focused on my kid and that whole healing process. And then after that, got off, came back to work, and still had the mental understanding of where I was emotionally. Again, normalizing the conversation of depression because I was fucking depressed. I was clinically depressed when that thing happened. And I went back and I was like, hey, dude, I talked to my boss again. I was like, I can come back, but I can't come back to the same thing that I was doing because I still wasn't 100%. But I needed to show my kids that you can't just heal laying down. You got to get up. Yeah. You got to move and you got to go back to real life. And life continues to happen no matter what happens. People die, people get sick, people get hurt, and you still got to get up and face fucking life. And so that was working with my therapist and going, wow, maybe it is time for me to go back to work. And I did go back to work, but as in a lesser position, I was just a supervisor. And they were like, you're the most expensive fucking supervisor in the world. But they understood. Thank God I had an amazing boss, man, because he was like, and I totally get it. And I think he has 5 kids. And so he understood where I was going through. And he was like, I couldn't even begin to fathom what you are going through right now. So do what you need to do. They were very patient with me. And then eventually went back to being the boss again. But it took me like, I don't know, 8 months of stepping down, loading trucks. And I hadn't loaded a truck in forever and like all those things. But that was my journey with mental illness and dealing with that. And even now, as I started having marital problems and the power, again, of talk therapy, like you just talked about, Justin. And so you go in there, you're like, hey, dude, I need to talk to somebody and just verbally vomit. And like mental health is like one of those things, especially if you suffer from mental illness. My grandmother was a schizophrenic. My mother was clinically depressed. I have a sister that struggles with mental issues, 2 sisters that deal with mental issues. Anxiety is a thing. Like those are all commonly things that a lot of people deal with, but they just don't know how to vocalize it, or they're ashamed to vocalize it. It's embarrassing. Yeah. And I vocalize it wholeheartedly with people. Like people have come to me in the gym and I want to work with you because I want to work out and because I want to lose weight. And you realize you like you say, you're a good judgment of character, but sickness sees sickness, addiction sees addiction. And so I immediately see sickness now. Like when people are, I just want to work out to lose weight. And there's like legitimately suffering from anxiety. You see it in them. And they're like, fitness helped me come out of that in a lot of ways. That's why I quit my day job and opened up a gym and do all these things, because I saw fitness as a medicine to a lot of things. And eventually now I don't even take none of those medications, none at all. I just do fitness. And that is enough for me, but I have enough things in my toolbox that have allowed me to do that. And going through traumatic things like with my kid showed me that I can have things put in place to be okay. And I can freely talk about it. Like I talk to my kids about this shit now. Yeah. So my kid now is okay to cry with me. He's okay to tell me like, Oh, Dad, I'm sad. Oh, shit, I'm going through this, Dad. How would you do? And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. So normal. And my ex-wife hated it. People are like, why are you telling your kids all this shit about your suicide and all this other stuff? I'm like, because it needs to be fucking normalized, because it needs to be talked about. Yeah. I talk to kids on my addiction. Hey, you come from a family of addiction, and thank God none of my kids are addicts. And because they have the ability to do that. I have a kid that's ADHD. Like, I'm ADHD, and nobody told me that I was ADHD. And I fucking self-medicated with meth because it made me feel normal. Yeah. Dude, like, I tell my kid all the time, hey, you're susceptible to doing these things, but this is what I know. And you may need to go talk to somebody. You may need to be put on medication. You may just find fitness as something that will help you out. Like, all these things that are there that are tools. You may just need somebody, a friend, right? You need to message JT and be like, hey, I need somebody to talk to. And I've been that person as well.
I tell you what, really quick, just on the lighter side, I feel really good about myself. I feel like I am the therapist today. I feel like I have brought two really fucking cool people together to talk about this type of shit. And I'm going to consider myself a therapist where I can sit here and just listen and just interject every now and then.
First of all, I'm like Justin. I don't like male therapists, bro.
Sorry. Let me go put my wig on.
We're gonna have to ask you to exit stage left. Yeah. No, I was gonna say there's a quick timeout. Omar, I love you, man.
Thank you, bro. I love you too, bro.
I was gonna wait till you said it back. Good.
Yeah, I love you, bro. I fucking love you, bro.
The way you talk about it, the reason why you talk about it and bring it up, and to see where you've come from and where you are now today, is absolutely incredible. Like, it is. I think that's why we need to speak about it and see where you came from and where you are today and what you went through. Is telling that whole past and showing people that there is a brighter side.
And there's a way, right? You think about when you were trying to take your life, there was no other way, dude. Like, sitting on the edge of the fucking Coronado Bridge, bro, you're like, trust me when I tell you, there was no other thought in my fucking brain that it would be so much easier if I just died today.
Yep.
And that thought exists for so many people out there. And if you're listening to this right now, you're not alone. 1, 2, there's people out there that will show you a way. I think Justin said it best. He just needed somebody to mirror. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He needed somebody to follow. He needed a good example, right? Because he hadn't had one his entire life. You got people like Justin. You got people like me. You surround yourself with, I called my tribe of 5. And so now my tribe is so big, it's just 10 in it. And those are the closest people that know pretty much a lot about you, not everything, but a lot. And so you lean on those people to talk to vent and get help and be a sounding board and pick you up and tell you, I love you, to tell you you're amazing, to tell you you're not fucking twisted and you're not sick. So that's cool.
100%, man.
Awesome. I love that we talked about it.
Do you still work with More Than Trails?
Oh, Bigger Than the Trails.
Bigger Than Trails.
No, we just dabbled together for the triathlon, and that was it. And so it was like just any other charity that I dealt with before. It was like, not that it was supposed to be a one-off, but just, hey, this is what it's for. And then, just with them. And then, so like we were saying, I did see a therapist when I was younger. I stopped for ages. I started traveling, finding myself that way and re-loving my life. And then after the triathlon, pretty much broke myself down again and had to reconnect with them. So it was really cool to see come full circle with it, to where they offer, it's no longer 3 months. It's a set number of sessions over the year, I believe, for free. And so I actually took them up on that service because I was doing it to raise money so they could support that cause. And I actually had found myself joining that because I needed it. I had broke myself completely after the triathlon.
What is this thing?
Oh, do you talk about the triathlon?
Yeah.
Bigger Than Trails. So
Bigger Than Trails.
Yeah. So
what do they do?
It's I don't know, Justin, you could probably explain.
So they're a nonprofit charity that kind of revolves around the ultra world, the running world. As we know, a lot of people in the ultra running community per se is either a recovering addict coming back or being sober, or they depressed or suicide. Like, we find a lot of us, like you said, we find something new to be addicted to, and we use fitness as medicine. And a lot of us over the weekend at Cocodona was the same deal. Was 9 out of 10 people I met were all recovering from something or coming back. You hardly find people who are just like Hector. That guy's just stone cold. That guy's good. He said it to me before, where he's like not knowing what it feels like to be depressed or be suicidal. And yet we're like great friends. Like, you can be friends with everybody. Like, you just don't have to be in a group of suicidal people. Everybody's your friend. I don't know. Yeah, it's just they revolve around that community, and they offer free mental health therapy for a year to whoever signs up for it. That's basically their whole gist, is just free therapy, because it is crazy expensive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially if you got no insurance, dude. That's hard.
And the reason I ask is because I want to make sure that we give a shout out to a group that does provide that, but it really needs to talk to somebody. That's always a group. I know you talk to them.
They local? Where are they at? Where are they? They're all
Utah,
over,
right? Aren't they?
I want to say somewhere like Utah, Colorado, or San Diego. I can't remember.
But it's all online stuff. Or
a lot of therapy is. I mean, I just recently had to talk to a therapist because I was going through like some stuff, and it was all virtual, dude.
That's the way it is. I think it's easier for everybody to get the help they need. I think if it's easy access like Zoom and but I want to say thank you, Justin, for
of course
coming on it. And I do want to this was a little bit more of the mental health side, like we've all been talking about. I do want to bring you back on and talk about some of the other crazy shit.
Yeah, baby.
I want to go to the lighter side of it next time.
I want to laugh a little bit more.
But it was important for me to get you to come on and talk about this, because as Omar said, I think this needs to be normalized a little bit more, and more people need to hear that there are people going through it. And from your group of members and all that stuff that don't know, it's good for them to hear this stuff, or people that know you in the fitness industry that don't know this, or people that just follow Justin on social media and don't really know exactly what he went through to get to where he is now. It's powerful. I want to thank you for coming on and always being open and always sharing. And as we said in the beginning, if you're following Justin on social media and you want to reach out to him and talk to him, he's always more than happy to chat with somebody and give some feedback and be there for somebody.
Yeah. Same here. Right. And so I think everybody in my community knows that. Right. And so even if you're just listening to the episode, right, and you don't know Justin or I, or even Jeff, right. And Jeff's received stuff when we did the episode on addiction. We did an episode on addiction, and he got a message and he was like, dude, you need to answer this. Right. And it was like pretty cool. It was somebody just talking about.
This just reminds me. And we talked about this with Hector, and one of the coolest things that Hector had said when you guys were doing the triathlon, you were talking about how much of an impact he has, right? This is the conversation about how somebody was thinking about killing himself, had his gun ready, ran into, or like somehow connected with you, I think, on social media, and really Justin and Hector were able to change his life based on what they were doing just at that moment. And that's the powerful stuff. Dude. That's the powerful stuff of
that's amazing.
Being able to like open up and be available to people and show how much good there is in this world, right? It's awesome.
There's some good people that have gone through some pretty bad shit. Doesn't make them bad.
I think getting that message was, there's so many that came over that point of the triathlon of people saying, I didn't want to wake up today. I wanted to take my life today. But I saw that you were getting up running with a broken foot for 40 miles today. And I'm like, that's nothing compared to what you're going through in your head. So thank you. But you're the real like hero here for pushing through today and making it through till tomorrow. And so getting messages like the person who had their gun ready and just seeing that there's a purpose to my life is special. And on days that are hard, it makes me realize that people are watching and I need to keep pushing through for them, for myself, for everybody else. And I think we all need to realize there's, no matter where we are in the world in status or accomplishments or anything, there's always somebody watching us. You don't have to do a triathlon across the United States to have somebody watching you. You could be running a half marathon and there's somebody watching you. You could be running a 5K for your first time. There's somebody watching you. There's no status quo you have to hit or standard you have to hit for people to watch you and look up to you. You could just be a great person and people look up to you that way. There's people who I can lift a lot more than, and I still look up to them. They're just, they are a way better person than me. And I aspire to be like them. And so I think it's special. I think it's important to talk about it and to see where we are and give those people like a hope or a glimmer of hope to be like, shit, man, like I can do some pretty badass things in this world if I just set my mind to it and really dig in. So it's quite special to see where we're at.
Awesome, man. Well,
cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love you, man. It's awesome. I'm glad we always get a chance to connect with you.
Thanks, fellas.
This has been an international podcast transmission of No Fixed Agenda presented by Bubs Naturals. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast episodes. NFA, over and out.